Josh, speak.
Okay.
No, he's mute.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you. Okay, guys, we are live. So hi everyone who's joined. We have 15 people watching.
Hello,
so far.
world.
Hello, world.
Hello.
So yeah, we're on the second day of these amazing talks organized by United Matters, which are just recently graduated Material Future students. And this is a series of talks that we're doing for Dutch Design Week. And today we're going to be talking about crafts and processes with Maria, Giuseppe, and Josh. So I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to ask these guys to introduce themselves and the work they've been doing this year. Over to you.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, I'm Maria, and I'm a designer, researcher, and maker. And for my final project, I was basically researching in the problematic of the degradation of soil and how basically our human activities are degrading our soils. And I was using ceramics to show this how the soil was basically getting really damaged and how we were neglecting and how important it is to take care of the soil. And so since we had to work from home, I basically started working with the soil in my garden. And what I decided to do is to dig a hole of that ended up being 3 meters. But to do so, I basically did an archaeological mission, and I was really going layer by layer of the soil, collecting each type of soil that I was finding and also the artifacts. And I was basically trying to analyze and trying to see how these different kind of soils and artifacts were telling me the history of or the impacts that could have happened in my garden. And after I collect, I basically start crafting ceramics with each type of soil and with these artifacts. So basically I had pieces of ceramics that were representing these different horizons of soil. So the first ceramics were made with this soil of that you find in the top layers, which has way more human remains, so a lot of debris and bricks and plastics and glass. And as deep as I was going, the evidence of the human impact were disappearing. So it was more just the stones and the proper geologic strata of that. So yeah, that's basically.
Cool.
Yeah.
Mr. Pepe?
Oh, yeah. We agreed that I was the second.
You're the second
one. So my project is named Why Did Chicken Cross the Road? It's actually an English pun, which it means why did this happen? And my project, in fact, aims to underline some problems we are facing nowadays, from explanation of planet resources to economic problems, even pandemic and oppression. So through the chicken, I tried to underline some general problems we are facing nowadays. From a practical point of view, my project is composed by a series of art pieces, from painting to mosaics made out of chicken scraps. For example, chicken blood, bones, eggshells, and anything else I find about this animal to be yes, you get it.
Nice. Josh?
So my project was called A Chair for Nearly Every Week of Lockdown. And basically it was, I basically changed my project because I wasn't able to carry out my original project without being in the studio. So for me, I was thinking my studio has now become my parents' back garden, basically. And I thought about what I really wanted to achieve whilst being in lockdown and finishing off the project the last kind of 3 months of 2 years. So I decided that I wanted to basically do a project that I could track what I was doing during lockdown and kind of use it as a tool to figure out how, as designers and makers, we are adapting to not being able to have all of the facilities that we kind of rely on. And I've always loved chairs and furniture. So it kind of was a challenge of like make a chair every week. And it started as that, and then it kind of developed into, can I make all of the chairs out of waste that I find in my local kind of 2-mile radius? And then it became a chair that kind of would explore a different kind of pathway or section of craft and design in each chair that could be easily understood if you were to kind of use it or look at it. And it was kind of a process of kind of subverting design icons and kind of fusing traditional techniques with more kind of ad hoc, me in my garden, kind of messing around and then kind of finding beautiful things at the same time. Which was great. And it started as a kind of purely making, and then it became a lot more about talking to other designers and how are they coping through lockdown. Especially a lot of my friends are makers, carpenters, woodworkers, ceramics, all of these things which are kind of impossible to do without woodworking tool machines, kilns, etc. And it was kind of a process of understanding how everyone else is dealing with it. But yeah, that's it. A chair for every week of lockdown.
That's really good. I really like that you've said all of that, because it kind of leads me on to my first question, which is, for those of you that don't know these guys, I think it's fair to say that you're probably the 3 big makers of your year.
I thought of the world. Sorry, just for a second.
Yeah, one step at a time. Yeah, so I think, obviously making is such a big part of all of your practices. Like even before going on Material Futures, you guys were super hands-on. And I think just watching you guys sort of have to go through this whole lockdown, I think you've been, as Josh, you've mentioned right now, you've had to be super resourceful. And I just wonder, just on a purely practical level, do you feel like you've actually taken on new skills, or you've sort of had to adapt in a way that you didn't expect? And have you learned anything that you feel that you'll be carrying on to your practice when you're not actually in lockdown in the future?
I think for me personally, I have gained a confidence of working on my own, and not having the most expensive tool that CSM can provide. And so basically I've started making furniture as a result of lockdown, and just thinking like, okay, what machines do I need? Like, what's the bare minimum of what I can afford to make some really nice furniture? And it's made me kind of think about things in a lot more of a like, I need to basically do this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
How can I do that with what I've got? Rather than, it's quite easy when you're at uni to go down to the workshop and say to the wood technician, I need to make this really complicated thing. Can you tell me how to do it and which machines? So it's kind of given me like a self-confidence to like want to be really ambitious on my own and not have to rely on anyone.
Yeah. For me also, it's more the fact that I immediately put hands on working, and before maybe I was more worried of like, okay, which is the context I want to, where I'm gonna get the soil from, where I'm gonna go and work, and now I had the chance to like, I don't need to go farther. I just need to, go to the garden of my garden and really like work with what is in there, and in some way it helped me to be a bit more myself, which is like this like transforming everything locally, making my own kiln, learning all of this, that then it's a way of like also being way more self-sufficient, and like I guess sustainable, and yeah, like more resolutive.
Yeah. And for you, Pepe, because I feel obviously like the audience doesn't know what you were doing before lockdown, which is basically kind of just doing the same things in the studio. So one day I walked in and there were like, I shouldn't be saying this, but there was like chicken legs just there, and he was sort of
Oh yeah,
tanning.
yeah. Well, I should thank my mother actually, because and my father even, because with her I peeled like I think 400 chicken feet in our home place, and my father found them. So I mean, I should really thank them because it's not easy to find 400 chicken feet wherever you are. I mean, and, and I was in Puglia in Italy in the south, and I actually should say I'm not trying to seem super tough, but before the Material Futures, I didn't have a studio since at least 6 years because I was traveling and going around and blah blah blah. So it's kind of possible to work from home. In fact, I started to work with embroideries rather than paintings before the Material Future course. And yeah, you just need a very comfortable sofa and some nice TV series, and it's not that terrible, I should say. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's really like admirable to see what you guys have accomplished from your own homes. Like, I think nobody. I mean, yes, I expected that, but like, you probably didn't think that you'd be able to do this. Giuseppe, you probably did, but like, I know, conversations with Josh and Maria.
As I said, I didn't try to resemble super tough. I just, yeah, so of course I told you.
I particularly was fascinated by Maria's project because being in lockdown, the idea of like Maria being in her garden, being like, we're locked down, I can't go anywhere, let me just dig down. Like, where have we not decided to
get into the earth?
And it's like you've kind of undiscovered a whole new, literally, terrain for you to work from.
Yeah, completely. And actually did something, I don't know, now I'm in a new house with a new garden, and it's like, I want to dig in this garden
New
and
project.
see what's going on.
Not bad.
And actually, there is a bunker of the Second World War, and it's like a lot of history, So I'm like, okay, what's the history now? And it's a really beautiful way to like look at the
Be careful,
history
you don't know what you're
by
gonna
looking at the. What do you say?
You don't know what you're gonna find close to the bunker. You said. I mean,
yeah, maybe
kind of dangerous.
Yeah. So I was just wondering as well. I'd love to know what were the challenges. I think in all of your cases of having to work with materials, for example, or processes that you might have not necessarily chosen or like you couldn't plan for. So kind of in Maria's case, you sort of worked with what you started to find as you dug the hole. Josh, you had like all these different, waste streams around you, and you just had to work with whatever you had at that point. And Pepe, you as well, probably. I'm not sure if you had worked with chicken skin before, but I imagine it was a completely new sort of sphere for you. So how did you guys manage those challenges?
I think that for me anyway, I did a lot of learning over lockdown. Through, like, for example, with the waste streams, like one of my chairs used the waste palm tree leaves that my parents have I don't know if it's a palm tree, it looks like a palm tree, in their garden, and all the leaves basically fall off the bottom section of it, and they just fall into the ground and die and rot. So for me, that was like one of the big things that I wanted to use. So, but that involved me like learning how to weave and like all of these things. And I think for me, like, I wouldn't have been able to process the material in the ways that I wanted to if I didn't kind of put in a little bit of time and research. So for me, I think it was it was basically, it was something that I would have never done if I hadn't of had to, And there's lots, and now I'm kind of interested in the idea of like weaved furniture and that kind of stuff, and it's kind of just like continually inspiring me to kind of figure out new things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a way to also to see what's in there, no, and get inspired with the materials that you have right now. But I think it's also like you need to be really open in what's gonna happen, because a lot of times, I don't know, for me working in ceramic, you start mixing materials, and once you will put them in the fire, and some of them will explode, another will crack, and some like suddenly will transform in like super beautiful materials. So you need to really open to, you know, to experiment and know that some of them will bring you to like a really beautiful pieces, other ones completely broken. So I guess it's being really open. That's the challenge, and creative of like finding solutions.
I think especially with ceramics, because once you start mixing unknowns, then the failure rate just increases massively.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we are kind of used to these. I mean, it's our work in the end, no, to get to find new ways, to speak new ways. I mean, it's interesting. I find it very interesting, the fact that the very normal daily things that surrounded us in that case during lockdown in our own houses became something different. When you look at something for a long time because you don't have anything else to look at, it becomes something interesting. It becomes a new way to interpret even reality in another way. So I think
I think you look at things differently, right?
Yeah.
absolutely.
Good things that you've looked at for years, and you see something different in it, I think.
Yeah, in fact.
It gives value to your environment and your surroundings, no, and like really.
Yeah, to your parents, for example. So yes, it was actually very interesting as a challenge, as Maria said. It was just pushing us out in our direction, because it's our work. That's the point.
Oh, is everyone okay with internet? I feel like
I'm okay.
is Josh moving?
Yeah.
Okay, hi.
Josh-
Oh, you were just really still for 1 second. Do you feel that in a way this situation has sort of liberated your practice? Because maybe what I'm trying to say is that sometimes I feel like when you're in such a big bubble and with so much pressure of like having to graduate, and you're doing all this like huge research, and it's almost like the hands-on making comes out too late in the day, and you sort of lose touch with like your practice before even the course. And what I saw is that, like, as you say, you know, you started looking at the world that surrounded you, and it's almost like you were children. Well, I mean, this is so cheesy, but like you were children again. You were like, I'm just gonna have to work with this. And I don't know, I personally think, and maybe you're gonna kill me by saying this, but I think you guys sort of benefited from having to just make with what you had, and you really sort of thrived in that environment. Am I exaggerating there, or do you also get that feeling?
No, I mean,
the feeling.
I think the pressure of Material Futures and CSM in general is huge. Like, I had a really big problem, like, from the end of first year to the start of second year, of like just having basically tunnel vision and not being able to see anything except what I was working on at that moment. It's really hard to like look, like take a step back and kind of analyze your project, because I think especially like when we were working towards Milan, we were working towards all these things, and especially like for me at that time I was like testing a material, and I like couldn't focus on anything else other than like getting the material right, and it like stagnated me so much that being like having to work in my parents' garden has been like a completely different experience, an amazing experience, because you haven't got that kind of like pressure of the institution.
Yeah, well, I had often this feeling of being really alienated when I was at uni, and like really feeling out of inspiration, I guess. But me, because I'm someone that I need to work with, you know, directly with the places. For me, it's my projects are also about the journey, and it's kind of also the ritual for me of going to the places, taking the material from there, and so yeah, I was feeling really isolated, I think, a lot of times in the uni.
Yeah.
But of course, I miss
Oh,
the
I mean,
workshops.
if you are forced to be home during the period in which you have to write your thesis, is not that bad, and I think everybody would agree with me. I mean, you can't have the possibility to go to drink with someone. You
Mm.
can't go out at all, and you have just to write down the thesis. So yes, from that point of view, we were kind of lucky in this absurd situation, terrible situation, and whatever. From another point of view, yes, it's very strange. I felt strange not having the possibility to speak with people, hug people. I don't know, like that feeling, which in a sense is interesting because it's keeping us very close even after 6 months. Because we feel, and I spoke with someone in London when we met a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
We feel like it's never ended. It's kind
Yeah,
of strange. It's
it's
an
still
it's a
going
mental
on.
process in which we are still all together, and
Mm.
we didn't experience an ending. So it's absurd because you never know. Like this situation is probably going to bound us forever. Who knows? It's strange.
Yeah.
It's still interesting.
And
Did I answer to the question, or I went?
yeah, I mean, you went on a tangent, but I think you touched on something that is, I think, really important, which is this idea of collaboration. And like, I sometimes, and maybe because I'm personally not a maker, like within my practice, that's not what I'm strong at. And sometimes I just feel that, like, you know, when you guys get in the zone, and when I say you guys, I mean like designers or artists that are very much about making, it feels like a very individual experience. But
Mhm.
I was wondering for you, within each of your projects and within each of your practices, how do you see collaboration? Like, at what points does collaboration come in, and what is the value of collaboration for you guys?
I think collaboration is so important.
Mm.
I really, really
Always.
struggled working on my own
Mm-hmm.
because, I mean, sure, making it becomes quite an individual experience, but I really thrive off talking to my colleagues and getting an opinion on something and kind of bouncing off other people. And that's one thing I've realized is that like working alone is kind of bleak.
It's really bad.
Because you've got no one to talk to in general, but B, you haven't got, there's no like buzz. Like the buzz of the workshop I find really thrives, allows me to thrive with my projects. I don't know if you guys agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all right. It's true. I mean, it's like, yeah, we missed our daily speaking about our works and our stuff. Yes, it's different to see things through the computer or even to speak about them without seeing them physically. Our course, as Matt, of course, knows better than anyone else, it's made out of different people speaking about different things every day, and I really miss that. Actually, yes.
But also because I think a lot of us are interested in the same areas, and at the end, for me, what I ended up doing is just like a one representation. But I think my project can have like a lot of different ways of shaping it, and for me, it's not my project. No, it can become like a project of a lot of other people. Like what I've been doing of like digging a hole and like this process that I've been doing, I would love the people to do it in their own way and to I don't know, develop further or whatever. But then again, I also find really important to, if I can collaborate also with experts, in this journey of like understanding, or like me, that I'm interested in soil, working with farmers, working with soil scientists, and that also brings you a lot of other ideas. And for me also collaboration, I don't know, like I would love also to do workshops and like collaborate with community. If we work with the environment, then it's really good to also invite people from the local area to also what's going on there. Like, look, I'm discovering this, I'm discovering that, and then other people will tell you other things. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then it gives a lot of reach to the project.
And
richness.
how have you guys dealt with a digital showcase? Because obviously, like, your projects are so much about the physical not even the physical interaction. It's just like the tactile element of like the materials you've done. I mean, I see Maria's project and it looks incredibly tactile, but I know that there's a huge difference between seeing it on the screen and then seeing it in real life. So, you know, obviously lockdown's getting worse. We probably won't be able to see your pieces in real life for a very long time. So how are you dealing with that? What are you looking into to try and make it as real and alive as possible online?
I don't know. I think it's really hard. I think the whole digital showcase thing is shite. I'm really not a fan of it. Especially, one thing I found is that like I found it's really hard to translate objects that don't like. So, for example, one thing I've struggled with is showing the chair with palm leaves, because I finished it with a bio stain that I made from extracting the pigment of the palm leaf. And without reading something about it, you wouldn't know. And I'm trying to figure out a really kind of not boring way of translating that, like small details, so that you understand the journey a bit better. Because looking at something on a computer screen, it just makes the whole experience of looking at an object kind of, I think, dull. I mean, that's all we kind of had to rely on at the moment. I think that there is kind of space to try and figure out how to make that experience more interesting.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that maybe like I wasn't that is now when I start realizing that I should adapt maybe my work in the digital world if I want to, you know, if I want people to understand without being there, and like translating maybe my pieces a bit more like also in a digital world and making them more tactile for the digital world. I don't know, like combining 3D scanning or like renders and this kind of things. But yeah, I feel like I'm behind of I don't think my project right now it's good for showing only online for sure.
I mean, it's a tough one for makers. I mean, for crafters, we are in this group, so it means it's a very tough question. The point is, I don't know how do you like video games. I think that is the answer. I mean, nowadays there are video games which are amazing. We just have to understand where is the point in which our work and video games. I'm saying video games just to speak about very clever people making this kind of work and jobs. There is probably in the future a point in which these two realities are crossing each other. It's not impossible. We are just at the beginning of all of these. So I'm always speaking about this movie, the Ready Player One, in which these people has these clothes that are helping them to go into this reality, which is actually amazing. And if someone didn't see it, because I think probably if the lockdown is going to last more than we thought, it's a possibility for the future, a world like the one in Ready Player One, in which even people which is working with soil or wood or chicken legs could find a way in which this world can match with them personal research. I don't know. Nobody knows, actually. That's the funniest thing.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly hard. How do you translate texture or a natural texture, especially something like ceramic? How can I translate that in a way that is both interactive and stimulating? I think is a really important factor, because it's fine to one thing I found with like rendering and Cinema 4D and all of these things is that you lose texture of your, like, so for example, like Maria, on your render, you haven't got all of those like really intricate textures that the soil produces in itself.
Sure.
Which is hard to translate, you know. So I don't know. I think that's something that.
Yeah.
And there might even be a new
Maybe.
wave of way that people are doing it. If this is going to last forever, well, not
Which
forever.
I hope
hopefully
it
not forever.
doesn't.
It's not.
It's gonna last forever.
No, but in a way, like I wonder if you, I know, like you're probably gonna kill me for saying this, but I find that in the same way that you've had to sort of adapt when you were put in lockdown and you just had to do your projects and you were super resourceful, I think this is also forcing you to kind of see your project in a much more multi-layered way. And like this situation is really unfortunate, but then as creatives, like I'm 100% sure that you can actually make it happen and just be extremely creative and resourceful with what you have. It's easy for me to say because I didn't graduate this year, but like I think there's amazing opportunities out there, and I think it also opens window to collaboration. Like you guys are amazing makers, you are super experts in that, so like I wonder if it would be a case of teaming up with someone that's maybe super digital and trying to find a middle
Yeah.
ground.
Completely.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna ask you another question about more of like the content of your projects, because one thing that really connects the dots is not only making and it's not only the craft. You guys are quite critical, and I think through all of your objects you've tried to create some sort of element of reflection or of conversation. So I'd love for you to maybe individually say more in depth, like what was it that you were trying to achieve through those artifacts. And also one thing that I'm personally really interested in my own practice is like, do you think that design or art can really curb the audience's perceptions on a certain topic? And if so, how and why?
Sorry, did you say curb?
Curb?
Curb.
Yeah, like shift?
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I searched for that word before because I didn't know it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, like just shift perceptions.
Yeah, no, I'm joking. Being serious.
Being serious.
Yeah, I guess it's a question that we all now constantly have, and I'm not sure yet, but I believe in it, I guess. But then the design is what surrounds us, like everything it surrounds. So for sure it shape a perception, and it shape like values and ways of seeing things, no? So yeah, I hope that my object in some way will reflect this kind of value that I'm trying to give to the environment, to what is in there, no? And yeah, what I was trying to do with my ceramic is to show basically how the environment is, how we have been impacting to the environment, how our activities are basically having a mark, no, in the soil. Like soil, basically, it's where everything settles down. So in some way, it's really like a way to show the history of the planet in some way. And I was trying to, with really like, I mean, it's really ambitious, I guess, but like I was really fascinated with soil. I was like, how can I really like take this material and show, what's in there, how I kind of craft it and basically show what's in there, and yeah, I don't know. I get lost. Maybe someone follows, and then maybe I will come back.
I think for me it was like I think what my project was trying. I think the content of it developed as it carried on developing as I kept doing it, because it was kind of quite an unstructured idea at the start. It kind of the layers of structure kind of fell into place, and I think that it was, in the end, it was kind of more about the kind of mental state of designers and makers who are sitting inside, and as like almost like, this can be done, you can make chairs out of random stuff that you find around you at home if you really want to. And I also made a book, to a little publication to accompany my project, which I kind of felt towards the end almost became a kind of handbook for a designer or a maker of how to kind of survive lockdown and kind of satisfy your urges of wanting to make things but not being able to.
Yeah.
As well as kind of a whole project of material exploration. I think it was kind of a self-exploration as well.
Yeah, and I think all of us, I think we have a lot of, we like to talk about our journey, you know, like it's not only about the art, the final artifacts at all. Like, yeah, I think it's something that we
Of
all try
course.
to.
I mean, I think the final piece, the final stuff, I mean, it's just a shape, it's just a material shaped in some way. Without an history, without a story, without storytelling, is nothing. So it's soulless, which is why I think every one of us is trying to put a very big story into it. Because it's just the beginning, it's just the tip of the mountain, then you have to go to see what is behind it. I sincerely think that what we are doing could change things, not like killing the king and change the political situation of a state, but like putting some spots. Our work is, when I say our, I'm referring to artists, designers, creatives. Our work is to imagine what is going to be tomorrow. So it's like to say to people, okay, I'm not sure about this, but I think things are going to be like this. Many of us are failing, many of us are like probably getting the point, but this is not important. Important is that sometime in the past, many years ago, someone said, I'm freezing, better to kill that mammoth and take its fur and put it on me, or better to find some way to keep this fire coming from the sky, because I mean before, at least this is what we see in cartoons. But the point is, we are the people which is actually pointing to the other people the way that humanity should follow, which is not always is not eventually it's even the wrong way. I'm not saying every designer or artist it's right. I'm just saying that that is our work, and history tells us that yes, we can change things. As I said, not killing politicians or doing revolutions in one day.
Yeah.
We are just
But
working.
Pepe, on that, I have a question, because I feel like out of these three projects, yours is the one that I would imagine that where these artifacts are more a tool for provocation. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they're necessarily pointing in the right direction in terms of this is where you should be going. I think it's really pointing a very direct finger at the issue, and yeah, I just wonder like how you, because for you, like obviously storytelling is super important, because every single artifact that you've made holds such a strong symbology. It's a symbol for something, and you really did a lot of research for that. So what were you hoping for, you know, your audience or the people that see your project to get from that?
You actually said the right thing. I'm not I'm not pointing the future. I'm just saying this is a problem.
Yeah.
Yes, true. But actually, again, why did the chicken cross the road? To answer to this question, it's already the beginning of the solution of the problem, probably. And there are many people which are working on this thing with different names, different materials, even probably without materials, just speaking or creating banners or video games even. Why not? The point is, we are all on the same page, and we are just saying, okay, if we don't start to think about this, maybe there will be not a future to point. I can't point any future if everything is going to be destroyed right now.
Yeah.
So yes, you are absolutely right. The first thing is to answer to the question, why did this happen? why did the chicken cross the road? In my case, this is my way to say it, but
Yeah.
thousands of people working on this,
Mm.
better than me actually. Probably.
Yeah, like I think. Well, you go.
No, just no. Maria.
That I think it's different in, well, I think George and me are a bit different in the sense that for me it's not, I don't think my artifacts will talk enough with what I want to talk. It's also for, like, I don't think it's like that easy to point out this soil problematic, and I think my project, maybe it's more about the way also we produce, we engage locally, you know, like we respect our environment. Like I think it's just the fact that I build the kiln, that I source all the materials. It's also like a call for becoming way more local, no? And more like also going a bit back on more primitive, no, ways of relating and using our environment, and like, and I guess for you, George, is also more like in the way we are making craft, no, and trying to visualize the problematic with the objects. Yeah.
Just really quickly, so I'm just gonna let Josh finish now on that note. But if the public has any questions, can you please start writing them down in the chat? Because then I will ask these guys your questions. So over to you, Josh. I feel like let's talk about craft now, because this talk is also about craft, and I'd be interested to know, like, what was the role of craft within your project?
What was the role of craft? I don't. That's a good question. Well, for me, I've never made furniture before, so it was a complete kind of undertaking of a brand new craft for me. And so that in itself was like the whole time I was learning a new craft, which was kind of, it felt like the right time to do something different that I wouldn't usually do, and that maybe I didn't have time to do before. So for me, that was amazing, like completely learning a craft that was in my unknown, and then kind of trying to, I don't know, I wouldn't say hack chairs, but kind of do them in a way that isn't traditionally done. And I think that probably a lot of furniture masters would be upset with the way that I was making chairs. But I mean, that was to me what was exciting, and it was kind of harnessing the traditional craft and turning it into something that was a bit more back garden, which was really exciting, and I kind of enjoyed messing with the craft a little bit.
Yeah, I think I agree, because, for instance, I don't consider myself a ceramicist because the way I do ceramics, it's quite messy, you know, like, I mean, I follow things, but for sure I'm not in the traditional craft, and like, but yeah, maybe craft for me, it's been a tool of learning. I don't know, the role of craft, I guess. Learning to make and to use not to shape the things, to shape the materials that you find in your
I think it's for you, Maria, the general kind of bracket of ceramic craft doesn't open up to what to do with clay that you find in your garden. You know, how does it, because it doesn't react in the normal way that kind of clay that you buy in the shop does. You don't know how it's going to fire. So in a way, you're kind of creating your own craft.
Yeah.
And for you, Pepe?
It's kind of strange because no, you should tell me the question again. No, because I was lost in all these topics, and I just
yeah. So what was the role of craft within your project?
Oh yeah. Thank you very much. Well, it was very important, yes, because in the end, yes, I'm in this group because I'm a craft stuff something. So yes, it's funny though, because I worked with very ancient techniques in the end, which is kind of ironic if you are in a course which is named Material Futures, but actually I worked with mosaic and tempera, which is like the tempera color, which is very it's a very ancient technique. The point is, in my own experience, craft has been probably not that important in the end, because I'm very good in that. I'm not trying to be cool. I'm just saying I'm good in crafting because I'm doing it since I was a kid, more or less. Like probably everyone in this chat beside Marta, which is more.
I do different crafts. Maybe they're not so hands-on, but
I would love
you
to
are.
see them, by the way. The point in my experience was like to think about crafting in another way. We spoke about this for more or less 3/4 of hour, but the point it was like the craft in a new vision. So it's not very important if you are doing chairs or ceramic or painting, which are very ancient kind of crafts. But the point is how this craft could be contemporary now. I mean, what is the meaning you are giving to this kind of thing? Which is not, which is actually saying that it's not important what you're doing, but why, and why, what are you trying to say? Because no one of us has made like in the past, I don't know, Christs or Madonnas in the sky. So, okay, I'm speaking about history of art, which is another thing. But what I'm saying is like today you are on your own when you're working with craft, when you're working with any kind of material, which could be even like an ancient kind of material technique. And the point is like it's always the mindset. Like, how do you see these? Why today? That's the answer. That's the question. Sorry. Why today should important to create a chair? Speaking about chair.
I think that, yeah, you're right. I mean, one thing that kind of Material Futures teaches you is lots of all of these things that we research and we do came from ancient times, right? But how do we use these processes and make them ours and make them interesting? Because I think that kind of thinking is where really exciting and successful projects come from. Like, sure, Pepe's using tempera, which has been used for hundreds and hundreds of years, but like, who is mixing chicken blood with the chicken egg and all this kind of mental shit, which I think is super exciting.
Thanks.
Which probably was happening before, maybe, I'm sure.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
someone just, but like in the way you know, like the way you materialize or like what you painting or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Explain, no, and it goes like it's a reflection of the contemporary moment that we're living, and it makes, you know, more sense, I guess.
Of course. I mean, if craft leads to new reflections, it means that craft still has a meaning. That's the point. Like,
yeah.
Otherwise, I sincerely love even chairs which or other things that we didn't do, like nobody in our course made. Like I really enjoying this so far. Really enjoying my bed and my bicycle. So it's not very important, or it is.
All about the context, basically, what you were saying before.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you very much.
Storytelling.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I'm conscious of time. I'm going to ask you one more question, but I need the audience to ask questions. Otherwise, we're going to finish really soon. Well, actually,
no one's watching. No one cares.
Come on, Molly. I know you're watching this. Ask a question.
I think we've just covered everything. We're really good. I just wanted to ask you, and I'm going to ask everyone on Material Futures to respond to this question, because I think it's actually really important, and I'm sure there's fellow designers, fellow design students that are watching this.
Would you recommend the course?
No, I don't want to ask that on camera.
I will, Kieran.
No. No, I guess the question is, you know, since we are sort of facing imminent restrictions, what is a piece of advice that you would give to, I'm not saying only Material Future students, just any student that's going to start design, or even fellow designers that are out there and they're probably really frustrated that they, you know, they're getting restricted, they're getting into a lockdown. What would be your piece of advice to them?
For me, it's more like, yeah.
Go on.
What is going on?
Take me a tour.
I told you, I just have to open the door.
I think it's like a perfect moment. Like, I know that I'm sure a lot of people won't have the same opportunities than others. Like the fact that I have a garden, it gave a lot of easy facility to my project. But it just really it's a really good moment to adapt and like rethink, no, in the new circumstances. So whatever they had in mind that maybe they wanted to explore how they can adapt that, you know, like instead of like wanting to go and like, you know, solve things that maybe are too far, just go in the moment and what's going on around you and really find like solutions for that are maybe more also, you know, right now and more linked to you and what's happening around you. And yeah, be open and not, like also don't lose the motivation, because I think there is a lot of things to do, and don't be of getting your house a completely mess and I don't know, be ambitious.
I think I would say don't be precious about who you think you are as a designer.
Yeah.
And kind of almost, I wouldn't say forget, but kind of just rethink who you think you are, and be, as Maria said, be open to exploring other things, you know, because at the moment, a lot of makers and designers, whatever kind of craft they study or they're going to study or they focus on, there are limitations that are being put in place that are going to stop you from doing that certain thing. So I think just, I mean, what Maria said, don't lose motivation. Like the amount of ups and downs of motivation I've had over the last 6 months has been incredible. But it's just kind of like finding other things that will stimulate you, or reading around other subjects, like just, and one big thing is like, I think my parents have been telling me a lot this recently, is like, don't be bummed out if things aren't happening for you straight away. Like, don't put so much pressure on yourself to make the things happen. Like, everyone is going through a shit time and these things will happen, you know. It's not going to happen today, or it's not going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, I totally agree with these. Like, it's not gonna happen now, maybe not in 10 years. The point is, maybe our career is postponed, maybe it's completely deleted. We never know. I'm going to be a little quick on this and a little harsh probably, but if you are a designer, an artist, or creative, you just do what you have to do. That's it. I mean, actually, the fact you are home, it means if this is the future, or we don't know what is the future, well, that is the place where you have to work, from where you have to start. So our work is this. I mean, we just have to adapt to new situations and to tell other people, no worries, everything is going to be all right.
Yeah, and if you can, I mean, if you can be in the countryside, better be in the countryside. But no, but like, I don't know, at Dennis, you, for instance, in London, you can still engage with your, you know, in with your community, with your neighborhoods. That's like, I don't know, look at what are your opportunities, and it will change in the country and the place. But, and also, a lot of times I feel we put limitations on ourselves. I don't know, like, I don't know if it's legal to dig a hole in your garden 3 meters, but you can cover it after. I don't know, don't be afraid of whatever you know, that then it can be repaired or it can put back.
No worries, even policies locked down.
Yeah. I'm sure that,
It's good that Maria has a second garden to dig into.
Indeed, that's
over the
very
next
nice. I
months.
mean, lucky you.
But it's a community one, so I don't know. Let's see.
Engage with your community. Get them to help you dig
Exactly.
the hole.
I also think it's super important to give yourself enough time for yourself and not
Mm.
being a designer, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
get a new hobby if that's what you want to do. Like, do other things that are going to stimulate you that don't revolve around what am I going to design, what am I going to make, how good does this render look, etc., etc. Because that also, well, for me, if something, if nothing's happening here, then if I'm also not doing anything here, then this just stays shit. You know, I need something else to kind of stimulate myself so I can kind of take a step back and just consider what's going on.
Yeah. Okay, so I have one question from the audience, and that is one question. I think you've covered so much.
It's my turn.
Sorry.
We're not being paid enough for this.
No, it's fine. So the question is, what is something that you have learned during lockdown that you will carry forward in your work? One thing.
Love to my parents.
You're gonna carry that into your work.
Yeah, sure. I'm already working on something about this. You'll be surprised. No, nothing. That's sincerely, as I said before, to have a very comfortable sofa and some nice series to see. It's the perfect way to work from home as a creative person.
I think that for me, one thing, well, you get taught this from at various times in your life, but I think for me it's like, just be super ambitious and don't be afraid of failing spectacularly if you fail on the way. Because lockdown, finishing our masters during lockdown was a journey, you know, and I think there are always going to be ups and downs, but just like, if you fail spectacularly doing something crazy, then to me that feels better than just doing something a bit mundane.
Yeah, completely. I would say maybe the same. Like, be ambitious and don't overthink. But is that answering the question?
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't necessarily need to bring certain skills into your future work. I think you can just. It's an attitude, really. I think you've proven to yourself so much about yourself.
It's a mindset of being like optimistic and open-minded, I think.
Yeah, and doing something that you really care and that you enjoy, and that it's a process for you of learning and doing and enjoying.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I'm gonna wrap up this conversation, guys. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Marta.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining. It's really a shame that I can't see you in person. And I don't know when that's gonna happen.
It's going to happen.
One day it will happen.
One day.
One day it will happen.
One
But
day.
yeah, thanks, guys. Tomorrow we have another talk at 6 o'clock with Uriol, Sophie, Molly, and Emily about social change. So it would be amazing if everyone could join us. And in the meantime, you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday and your projects. Keep making, keep being creative, and getting excited about the work you do. And yeah,
What are you doing now, Marta?
I'm not going to respond that on the live question now. I'm keeping creative and doing lots of work on myself, and basically what you were saying, cooking a lot. That's my craft.
Very good.
Yeah,
That's very good.
Yeah.
That's very good.
Yeah. Wait, I'm just gonna finish this stream, but we stay on the call.
Sure.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, great. End stream. Are you sure? End. Okay, I don't want to fuck this up.